Thank you so much for having me, and thanks to Alexandra, Sherry, Mia, and Heidi for making this happen once again during difficult circumstances once again. But I'm really thankful that we have this opportunity to take a break from our everyday lives now and talk about what we care about. And I'm really glad to be able to talk about this topic that I care a lot about, and we've worked a lot on in Kolonial.no. I started in the company 2 years ago, and this has been one of the major efforts we've worked on. I was lucky, as Sherry said, to talk about scaling insights last year. And we've gotten a lot of questions after that on how we scale, especially the competency and support part. So that will be the topic I will take you through today. And I also, from the start, would like to acknowledge Kate Kosmina and Siri Bruskeland, two of my great colleagues who have been heavily involved in making this presentation and this material, and I hope maybe some of them will take the challenge to talk next year. So just quickly introducing myself. I'm heading Data and Insight in Kolonial.no, something I was very lucky to get the opportunity to build up 2 years ago, approximately when I started. My background is from NTNU. Operations research was my focus during my master at the end. I've done consulting for 7 years with data warehousing, and also what I at least now look at as the early days of more advanced application of analytics. Before I joined VG and Schibsted, where I built up similar teams as I have now done in Kolonial.no. And I'm talking here today on behalf of the whole Data and Insight. And who are they? When I talked a year ago, this was the group I talked about, for the analyst and one data engineer scaling Insight to 400 people. And that was true. And this was the group a year ago. And since then, a lot of things have happened. This is Data and Insight right now. So we have also scaled Data and Insight quite massively. The green ones here are data analysts, the red ones are data scientists, and the purple ones are our data engineers. We are organized in this embedded model, so people are not just specialists within Data and Insight, but they're also specialized within the domain they're working in and organized in cross-functional teams. But we're not where we are aiming for yet. We're still scaling, and just this year we will add a lot of more people into Data and Insight. And this is not something that is just happening in Data and Insight, because that wouldn't make sense. It's happening to the whole of Kolonial. And the reason for that is some exciting plans that we soon hope to be able to talk about. So just stay tuned. You will hear more from us, I think, in many channels soon about that. But let's get into the presentation. This is today's menu. I'm glad to hear that we have, regular customers like Sherry, who's been with us since 2014. I don't assume that all 600 have tried us, especially since a lot of you are also sitting outside the country. So I'll give a quick introduction to Kolonial.no. Then I will just briefly talk about what we do in Data and Insight, and a couple of slides recapping last year to give that context before we share a couple of our secrets behind our data-driven culture. All right, this is the group that started it all in 2013. 10 people, none of them with any background from grocery shopping or grocery business. They had a background mainly from technology and some of them from marketing. And I think both that and some of the early choices they made about building things themselves really created the foundation for the data-driven culture we have today, and how we've had sort of the perfect conditions of creating that culture and building up something like what Data and Insight is today. We are the largest online grocery player in Norway, and what we work to create for our customers is flow and create freedom in their daily lives, allowing space for other things than going to the store. And how we do that? Well, we are building the world's most efficient retail system. And that sounds very ambitious for a relatively small Norwegian company. But we have benchmarks where we really see that the efficiency we're able to create or have in our supply chain is in this league. So we're very proud of that. A lot of it we can't talk about, unfortunately, because it's really our core business secrets. But what I can say is that data and insight, and especially algorithms, have been a core part of achieving that efficiency. And that is, the way we do that behind the scenes is we've designed and built pretty much everything ourselves. And that goes all the way from the web store, the user experience, the recommendations, varer du trenger nå, category management, customer communication, but also procurement, getting the right number of products in at the right time, picking them, and then, of course, the distribution part. And all of that is supported by data and technology. So, for example, distribution, obviously route optimization is a really interesting topic for us from the data and insight side. The fact that we have built everything ourselves make us less dependent on others and gives us a lot of flexibility, and are also one of the key factors why we've been able to scale like we have, especially the last year with a big surge in demand. All right, data and insight. So ambitions for data and insight, and what we talk about, the core that really brings us together is realizing the potential in data. So realizing the potential in data, and that can be done, with various degrees of using technology, automation, smartness in that. But along that line, we have those three different roles: data analysts, data scientists, and data engineers, who together with all our other disciplines create that value. And we mainly do that in two ways. One of them is to have data and algorithms as sort of an integrated part of both our retail system and our operational model. Data scientist is one of those important players there. I will not be talking about many of the cool applications of algorithms and data science today, and I will be talking more about the second one here, which is that insight-based culture with informed decisions, and where we also make sure we see that impact. And how we do that at scale? Well, we still see when we get new colleagues onboarded, especially in other disciplines, that they ask, "Oh, great, you're the data and insight team. You will be the one who can help me with data and reports." And we have to tell them that no, you are self-served, and we will provide you both with the tools and also the competency and support to be able to be self-served. And I will get back to at the end of the presentation to the results we're seeing with that. But I can already now see that we're quite successful in that part of becoming self-served. So I will say we are there, and now it's about continuing to scaling that and continuing the journey in maturity. And these are the 4 building blocks that I took you through last year of how we have done that, how we have scaled insights. So it's about recruiting the right kind of people with the right competency, organizing them with the embedded model across the organization, having the right tools and the right infrastructure, using that in the right way through common standards for development, and then the final part, which is about training and support. We're giving our colleagues a lot of freedom in terms of access to our data and our insight tools. So we need to back that up in the right way. And that last part is the focus for today. So, and fundamentally for all of this is the fact that we really believe that insights enable better decision. And by the way, that could be qualitative insights as well. We work closely with our colleagues from UX design, and make sure that the combination of those is the foundation for the decisions we're making. And we believe it should be available for everybody, and that's something we work on. So what does this have to do with Jean-Louis, our French baker, who's the man behind our delicious cinnamon buns? Well, he's one of those who have requested access to Looker and has used that for the last year. So he used that, to see how his cinnamon buns are doing and also how his experiments with bread, etc., are also going. So, getting to our 3 secrets. The first one here, answering questions quickly and ensuring transparency. A lot of it is about remaining that sense of flow when our colleagues use data and insight in their work, like we want them to do. So not getting stuck. The second one is about not just being reactive, but also being proactive. We see pick up these systematics gaps in competency in different parts of the organization. So how can we work to develop those skills and develop that competency? And then number 3, we also want them to get interested, to want to work with this. And we really believe in the power of example. And so we also try to have a low threshold to share examples of what we call interesting insight. So let's get into them. All right. So the first one is actually divided in 2. So you have, the need to not get stuck. So that means that we need to be able to support them when it is needed. So that if we're in the way and not able to help them get on when they're stuck, that means that they will likely not use data and insight in their work. We also want it to be transparent. So our solution is really simple. It's the Data and Insight Support Channel. It's been there for many years and have involved, and I think this is also a lot about how you execute and use something like this. So we have 2 people from Data and Insight who every week have the role of moderators in this channel. So they closely monitor this channel and sort of triage all the requests that come in. If there's something really urgent, they jump on it right away. We try to actually answer most questions independent of their importance to create that sense of flow. And we believe that the cost of that is less than the value of people feeling efficient or productive, and also getting the confidence to continue using data in their work. Since we're 30 people, that means that you do this approximately 2 times a year. And it also means that we try to limit the number of direct messages to the analysts and data scientists and data engineers directly. So that will give the others more focus. And then those that are moderators will take that part of work that week, and then they will pull in others if needed and route them to other people in Data and Insight, or even others outside Data and Insight, if that makes sense, if it's something urgent. And one cool side effect we see of this is that we also see that the people outside of Data and Insight is helping each other, and that happens actually quite a lot. In this case, we see Mohammed, who is working with our package delivery business. He is asking this very actually well-explained question of what he'd like to achieve. But his question is actually, what's the update frequency of those data? And then we see Matthias, who's a project manager in our sales department. He responds by pointing to this dashboard we have created that shows the update frequency and also the freshness of the data. And I think this is a perfect example, and Mohammed was able to do his analysis by himself based on that answer. But a Slack channel is not always enough. So we also saw the need to go further in terms of helping people solve their needs. So sometimes you don't even know what kind of question you're trying to answer. We quite often see that people are asking for something, but we believe that they're actually looking for something else. So in that case, we actually point them to Data Hour, which is something we created a while back, which is basically peer-to-peer, or we help them directly get help. We used to do that in the office. Now we have transitioned into Google Meet right now, but we hope to be able to do that in person again soon. And in this case, you can see CD is posting this week's data hour. It happens every week when that will happen. And you see Christian from distribution saying that I got some questions for you, Siri, so please load up with some coffee. So for us, this has been important to both understand which problems people have, understand their competency, and also get input on what kind of competency needs we also need to cover more proactively. And that actually brings us over to Data University. So how we systematically educate our colleagues, and we do that both with the people in data and insight, but also mostly the focus have been for the people outside of data and insight. And here we're trying to solve, competency and their need for competency. It's constantly changing. The company is changing. What we're doing is changing. Our maturity analytically is also changing. And we also see that we have new colleagues coming into Kolonial every month. And we also see different needs, especially when the maturity is increasing. We see different needs across different user groups. So we have created, so for these 13 courses in Data University, a lot of it is centered around Looker, which is our insights tool. We also have some more technical available resources to get started for the people in data and insight regarding Kubernetes, Docker, GitHub, etc. Amplitude we use for more granular user behavior. So we have an on-demand video you can look at on your own time. And also the content here, it's important to mention that we both have exercises where you can do actually answer questions in Looker and then see how it could be done. It's videos and it's also in-person trainings. Last spring, we actually did a decision-making course or a decision tree course for everybody involved in the growth strategy process. And we saw that everybody involved in the growth strategy, they use these decision trees to actually make that strategy. And we saw a big increase or improvement in the strategy process that year. So that was quite cool to see. We always ask for feedback. That's how we improve. We have a culture where we actually try out new courses and new content in a quite early phase and then rather iterate it and see how it works in practice. Since this is internal users, it's our colleagues, so we can try to test things out before it's perfection. In the middle, you can see response from one course we did, which is quite representative of the kind of feedback we get on the rating of the courses. And then last secret, trigger interest. As I said, we believe in the power of example. So we wanted to create a space for that. And, both triggering the interest, seeing how things can be done, but also lowering the threshold for what is called insights. And I think this example is a perfect one of what can be called insight. Well, this was something that Johannes stumbled across when he was looking into something else, but we saw that actually, what kind of chocolates do older people use? And he shared that and it created some fun reactions and also actually discussions after that. And that's something we see as well. And it didn't take long before a lot of our other colleagues outside of Data and Insight also started to use this channel to share insight and what they had found. And one final nice effect of this is sort of creating that feeling of achievement as well and getting that feedback on what you have done. And you can also share something to get feedback in that channel. Another example of interesting insight, this was shared by Anders in November, where we looked at whether the share of searches in total of toilet paper compared to our total number of searches could be an indicator of another wave or another surge in demand. And this was toilet paper that all of you probably remember a year ago. And we have actually seen that in a couple of cases that has increased. So again, something that created a lot of attention. So that spike is the 12th of March last year. All right, that was 3 of our secrets. Trying to create that, or keep that sense of flow for our colleagues using data and insight in their work by supporting them. proactively also training and developing skills. And then thirdly, triggering insight and motivation through just a dedicated Slack channel for that. And then the results. Well, all of you who work in data and insight see that many of the things we do, especially these kind of things, is difficult to measure, but we try to measure as best we can. So these are some numbers. We have a lot of messages in our support channel, a lot of activity every day. We've done a bunch of data hours with good participation mostly. It's gone down a bit lately during Corona, so we have to work on that, but we hope it will become better when we're back in the office. The numbers on the top is from Looker, so weekly active users, 170 for us. That's a big number. That's a big proportion of the people working for us, and with also a quite high engagement. So they have a lot of, they use it a lot, those that are active. And the final number there, 153, that's actually how many actually can create their own dashboards and do their own analysis and not just consume and view existing dashboards. And I think that number is quite a lot bigger than in most other companies that I've seen. And those actually actively use that to create their own dashboards and do their own analysis. We currently have 13 Data University courses. And right now it was 130 members when I checked yesterday in the Interesting Insight channel, and a lot of posts. It was just a new one yesterday as well. That channel was created in June, so it's a bit newer than the others, but it seems to be still active and valuable. And that was it. We have written a bit about these topics in our Medium blog post, so please go in there and have a look if you want to read some of this. Also, we are still looking for other colleagues, so have a look at our career site. There are some exciting positions that will be also shared in the coming weeks around data and insight, so stay tuned.